Hey Internet, welcome back to Easy Riding. I'm Zac.
I'm Emma.
We're headed out on our first ride towards the tag end of the summer after having put new brakes and tires on Mav. And we thought we'd give you the Pillions Perspective.
Pillion is basically the word that you use for anything that you ride passenger on that's a two-wheeled vehicle.
Also called a backpack. I see that one used more with sport bike guys. Backpacks.
Oh, a backpack. Well, that makes sense. You can also call it riding two up. But if you're talking to somebody and you're passenger on a two-wheeled vehicle, then you are in the pillion position.
Unless you're in the sidecar.
Unless you're in the sidecar.
Although
yeah,
I guess technically it's not a two-wheel, then it's three-wheel.
Yeah, with more wheels. I wanted to go over 10 kind of basic things that you might need to know if you find yourself wanting to be a pillion, that Zac and I do on the regular. Some of them actually you don't need to do after the first couple of times, especially if you only ride with one operator. And basically I only ride with Zac. I used to ride with Papa Bear before he passed away. And there's every now and again I'll ride with one of my other friends. But I'm never an operator. I'm always a pillion. Like Zac said, we have been on hiatus over the summer here in Arizona. If you're riding for pleasure, then you're not riding. The only reason that motorcyclists ride in Arizona in the summer is if they have to get to work or to do something if it's your only vehicle.
There are probably some real hardcore guys that don't give it up.
Alright, but are they actually riding with gear or are they riding in
Well, okay, sure.
shorts and whatnot?
Yes, most of the time in the summer when you do see them riding, they're squidding.
Yeah. So the first thing to check or to know if you're going to be a pillion is checking with the operator. Don't just get on any motorcycle. Don't just walk up to any person and be like, hey, I want to ride on your motorcycle. You need to make sure that they are comfortable having a passenger. If they've never ridden with a passenger before, then it does take a little bit of getting used to ride two up. And if it's your very first time on a motorcycle, like you've never ridden before, then it's probably a good idea to go around the block a couple of times before you decide to go on a long trip or any real trip worth anything, like on major roads or anything like that. My first time was with Papa Bear. We were going to a state rally, or he was going to a state rally with the Christian Motorcycle Association. And it was up in Williams, Arizona, which is about a 5 or 6 hour drive away from us. I'd never been on a motorcycle before, but he invited me to go. And we did just that. We rode around the neighborhood a couple of times on his Goldwing so I could get a feel for it. And then the next morning, very early in the morning, we left for Williams, and I did my first ride all the way to Williams as pillion. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that again. It's kind of a trial by fire, but it worked and it was fun.
You know, that's funny. My first real long ride, I had been riding for about a week, and I met Dad and my brother up in Williams.
On the Vulcan?
On the Vulcan, yeah, that's where we went. That's where I rode to in the middle of the night, in the middle of the winter. It was so cold.
Again, not really recommended to take your first long motorcycle ride when you are just starting out riding.
By myself in the middle of the night in the dark. Yeah, it was maybe bad choices.
Either operator or pillion.
But maybe Williams is great. We both lived.
Yeah.
What we're saying is do it.
The second thing I suggest is gear. Get some. We have a video here that we'll link that you can check out what kind of gear that Zac and I use, and some other kinds of suggestions for different types of gear. But basically, don't get on somebody else's bike if you are not prepared to be on the bike. Decide where you want to go before leaving. How long is the trip going to be? Are there going to be bathrooms? Is there going to be something to see or do? I don't recommend just getting on the bike and going. A lot of people probably do, but if you're a pillion, I like knowing when we're going to stop, what's going to happen, what's going on. That's just my personality. Communication. Before you get going, if you don't have a comm system, a communication system like a Cardo or a, what are some other ones? Senna?
The Senna, yeah. Those are the two popular ones.
Then you're going to be left with just basically hand signals or, a pat on the shoulder or a pat on the leg or something like that. So determine before you leave what those pats or nudges or hollers mean before you get going so you can adequately communicate with your operator. If your operator doesn't know that you are uncomfortable or that you need to stop or something's freaking you out, then he can't do anything about it. Conversely, if your operator needs to stop fast or there's something that's going on or that he needs to communicate to you or maybe he needs to go to the bathroom, then, let each other know. We use the Cardo system. We've used it for a couple of years now, and we really like it. There's some kind of bugginess to it, I guess. When you're just starting out on your ride, it's not always reliable. I don't know. What would you call it, Zach?
It's like it needs a little bit of time to wear in before it starts actually not dropping. But after that, it does really well at blocking out wind noise and communicating every time you speak. But at first, sometimes it drops the conversation a little bit.
Yeah. You have to ask what the other person is saying. I also noticed that at freeway speeds, it doesn't do as good of picking up your conversation, and there's a lot more of, what did you say? Back and forth. But just on regular speed limit streets, it does good. We haven't had a problem with it. It has a long charge to it. Like we were just saying before we got on the motorcycle that we've basically had the comms on our helmets the whole of summer, and I think our last ride was in April or May.
At least 2 months ago.
It's now August, and we haven't charged them or done anything with them.
Yeah, this unit claims 15 hours of talk time, which is pretty good. That'll get you through most circumstances until you need to charge it at night. So
yeah, it charges pretty fast too. When we had our long trip from Colorado, when we would stop for lunch, we would put the communications on Zach's portable battery thingy, and it charged him up just fine. We didn't have any problems at all for the whole 13-hour trip. Papa Bear and I usually communicated with squeezes or nudges. I'd squeeze his shoulder, or he'd squeeze my knee or something like that, or whenever we'd come up to a stop sign or a stoplight, we would stop and turn around and talk to each other if we needed. How to get on and off. It's a good thing to know as a pillion how to get on the motorcycle. Usually everybody kind of does it differently, but that's when you want to talk to your operator and figure out how they're most comfortable with you getting on. Normally Zach gets on the motorcycle first, and then I get on the left side. I get on from the left side. And it's basically you put your left foot on the floorboard, swing your right leg over, hang on to your operator if you need. I have a different friend who I ride with, and while Zach usually stays seated whenever I'm getting on, my friend stands up, and so I put a hand on his shoulder, and again, left foot on the left floorboard, swing your right leg over. and then sit down and adjust as you need. With Papa Bear, I always got on first. So with the Goldwing,
Yeah, I was going to say, that was probably a factor of the Goldwing more than anything else.
Because the Goldwing had a back seat or a backrest for the operator, and you had to flip that down in order for the Pillion, the passenger, to get on into the back seat. So the bike would be on its stand. Papa Bear would flip the seat down, I'd get on, flip the seat up, and then he'd get on. Same thing with getting off, it's just the opposite of getting on, really. Make sure that your operator is completely stopped and ready for you to get off. Don't just jump off before they have the bike stable. Where to put your hands and feet. Again, this is preference with your operators and your Pillions. If you're like Zac and I, you're a married couple, you're, comfortable with each other, then you can snuggle up pretty close and get an arm around the belly, or I'll keep my hands on Zac's shoulders or down by his waist, kind of a thing like that. I hang on with my knees and my hips. With somebody that I'm either not as familiar with or like my other friend, I ask them what they're comfortable with. Can I put my hands on your shoulders? Can I put my hand on your waist? Communication, just talk through it, make sure that they're comfortable with you and that you're comfortable with them. Keep your feet flat on the floorboards. If you have pegs, then keep your feet on your pegs. Do not put your feet on the pipes. For one, it will burn the bottoms of your shoes. It will cook your feet. And it might break the bike too. If you're trying to use the pipes to mount to get on the bike with, then that's not a good thing. You want to use the floorboards or the pegs that are provided. And if they're not provided, then it probably means you're not supposed to be riding Pillion on that bike. A lot of times I'll just hang on to Zac's jacket, and he's got these kind of like, I don't know, I guess it's like shoulder easements, but it makes a handy little grip whenever I don't necessarily want to snug up tight on him, or when I don't want to restrict his movement, then I'll hang on to a little bit of his jacket. And it just provides me some stability and provides me some comfort. There's also places like on the Goldwing, it had handles down by your thigh and hip that you could hold on to if you're Pillion. Mav has the metal on the backrest that if you don't want to hang on to your operator, there's other places on the motorcycle that you and your operator can discuss hanging on to. Safety. Basically, trust your operator. They know what they're doing. They know how to operate the motorcycle. Hopefully. You don't want to be too tense on the back. Be as relaxed as you can be. Sit your seat firmly. Stay loose. Don't make any sudden or abrupt movements, kind of a thing, especially in turns. If you're turning, go with your operator.
Especially because there's a couple different sort of theories about how to operate a motorcycle, whether you're leaning into the turn or whether you're sitting upright and counterbalancing against the turn. So it's important to do what the driver's doing.
Not saying you can't move or shift or be comfortable, but again, if you're going to make any large sudden movements or sit up to adjust your seat or something, then let your operator know. Say, hey, I need to shift, or I need to move my foot, or I need to stick my leg out, or whatever it is. Just talk to your operator so that they can make sure that they have a firm hold on the motorcycle, and then they'll let you know when they're ready.
And how much you can get away with depends a lot on the bike that you're on also. There are some bikes, like a little Honda Rebel or something, that is going to be a lot more prone to moving when the Pillion moves around. That's gonna translate through the bike to undesired movements. Something like this bike that weighs 850 pounds, Emma can almost dance on the back seat and I don't notice. So
yeah, and if you do find yourself in an emergency situation where something has gone wrong, then again, just try to stay loose, go with the motorcycle, trust the operator to get the motorcycle over to the side of the road or whatever it might be, kind of a thing. Whenever I was riding with Papa Bear, we snapped off a valve stem on the back tire, going like 75, 80 down the 17, and the back of the bike started fishtailing, and that was not the most fun. But again, I just sat real still as I could and let Papa Bear operate the motorcycle off to the side of the road, and then we got off. Try not to grab onto them. If you are going to go down, try not to grab onto them, because they need to try to lay the bike down in the safest way possible. And grabbing onto them, grabbing onto their arms or onto their chest or something like that can, jerk the handlebars around and kind of a thing, and lead to more problems. So, enough about scary stuff. How to corner. Cornering is probably one of the most confusing things that a lot of motorcyclists and people in Pillions and stuff that I've talked to is like, how do you corner? Because it feels counterproductive to lean into the corner and to let the bike do what it wants to do. The bike wants to stay up. So what I like to do is, like, say we're gonna go around this left corner here, I'll drop my left shoulder, I'll look out and ahead in front of me, not down at the line that's next to my foot, but out and ahead in front. Drop my shoulder and relax my stance and sit solidly in my seat. It almost feels like I'm like planting my backside more into the fabric, if that makes sense. I'm not like up on my bum cheeks or up on my toes or stuff. I'm firmly planted. And it's kind of hard to see whenever you're pillion to know if there's a corner coming or what the corner is. So you got to listen to the bike. You got to know and feel what's going on. Watch your operator. Watch his shoulders. Watch his hands. Where's he going? We're coming up to a right-hand turn, and I can see that there's a left-hand turn coming up next. So I can prepare myself to get my body ready to do what it needs to do to go into the turn. Waving or communicating with others on the road. It is perfectly acceptable for you as a pillion to communicate with the other motorcyclists or people on the road. Sometimes the operator can't give the little wavy sign that you do whenever you're a motorcyclist that you probably already know about. And so the pillion can do that for them. We can absolutely give the little wave, the little high sign to the other motorcyclists, and
Correct
that kind
etiquette
of stuff.
Correct etiquette is finger guns.
Yes. Correct etiquette. Something that I would help Papa Bear do whenever we were on long rides and stuff like that is that I would watch out for cops, and so I would warn the other motorcyclists around us, if there was a cop ahead or behind or around. And that is a flat palm twice tap on the top of your helmet if you're notifying somebody that there's a police around. Be active. Don't fall asleep on the back of the motorcycle. I have been tempted to do that so many times on long rides, because you just get into a zone and you get into it's like a, I don't know, it's
a trance?
Yeah, kinda almost, because you're just chilling on the back, and it's not that you aren't participating, and it's not that you're not doing things, it's just that you aren't nearly as active as the operator is. But being alert, paying attention, helps to avoid the dreaded helmet clunk whenever you're coming to a sharp stop and you're not paying attention and you clunk helmets, or you're taking off and you're crunching your abdomen to go with the momentum on the bike and you clunk helmets. So
I had an urge to stop us real hard at that one to make us clunk helmets.
I don't want to clunk helmets.
It was going to be an example.
But you can be active. Just because you're the pillion and just because you're riding passenger does not mean that you don't get to be active in the motorcycle ride. You can talk to your operator. You can point things out. You can wave to people. You can do all manner of things while you're still hanging out. And last but not least, just have fun. Relax and enjoy the ride. That's half the fun of being pillion, is that you're not the operator.